Hello everyone. So yes, I wanted to get this video out really soon, as fast as possible. I didn't really think anything of it, but I didn't think things here in Baltimore would get this far escalated. So several things that you guys should know that the media is completely misinforming the world of what's actually going on here. Uh, uh they're only showing things as far as that riot going and how destructive it got. There is a truth and there's a truth to it, and then there's a misguided underlying to it. um First and foremost, those protesters, they did not become violent out of nowhere. They did not start that riot. From the get-go, where they were having their protests peacefully, and for the most part, even long after the riot had started, they were still having their protests peacefully. Several people actually stood between the riot and the police officers. So once again, this was not an attack or an assault on the police force of Baltimore. They were still peacefully protesting up until said individuals. We don't actually know who the individuals were, but they were individuals from the building that is seen with the windows being smashed in. Uh, they were it's a restaurant, if I'm not mistaken. They were outside of Camden Yards, and they were Orioles baseball fans, and they had started throwing beer and water at the protesters. The protesters, in an emotional state, had responded. Was it the right thing to do? Was it the wrong thing to do? That's up in the air, but understand that half drunken beers and half drunken waters carry saliva and spit. That is technically assault. And no one was manhandled. And the irony is, no one was manhandled and attacked or arrested the way Freddie Gray was. So at the end of the day, even the police officers were in a way exposed. Like, as much as you want to give the credit to a lot of this stuff happening as far as the protesters go, it's not all their fault. It's not completely their fault. Now, as for the reasoning behind them portraying that the protests had gotten the way that they gotten, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but at this point I kind of give my own idea. There's a hidden agenda for this. Now, everything that goes on from here on out is one of them things where it's like open season. If the police officers start running down on people who are protesting and start killing them, the media portrayed the protesters as violent, savage animals, which means now these people are going to commit a form of genocide among the youth of Baltimore, and they may get away with it. And before they do, I wanted everyone to know that this was not something that they started. Hopefully that things won't get this bad, and I'm hoping that my words will reach the ears of whoever is listening. But this is definitely not something that the Baltimore youth or the Baltimore or Freddie Gray's family or the Baltimore people want. I was informed that there were several agitators as far as other cities go, like some from Missouri, and you know what? I honestly don't believe that even they had anything to do with it. There were people who was attacking and assaulting the protesters first. That's plain cut and dry. Like, their peace was met with violence. Understand how detrimental that is for you to understand that. Their peace was met with violence. They didn't come down there to attack anyone at that Orioles game. They didn't come down there to disrupt that Orioles game. The said individual, like I said, could have just as easily went on about his day and continued to the ballpark and watch said Orioles game. It became a problem when he decided, hey, let's just start these protesters. Like, this was completely an unwanted attack and defamation of character among the citizens of Baltimore City. I don't know who the said individual was. It could have been a Baltimore Orioles fan. It could have been a Red Sox fan. I actually don't know, because I know that those were the two teams playing at the time. But this is clearly a blatant attack and assault on the character of Baltimore's character. And the truth is, they were not violent the entire time. They didn't. The protest was insanely peaceful. They marched. They went and they got their voices heard by the mayor. And the reasoning behind her telling anyone she was disappointed after the protesters who had just listened to her talk through the side of her neck, like that is one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. Like, you can't even get a police report from your police headquarters. Like, are you serious? And you got the nerve to be disappointed in someone? No, I will not be voting for you. You do not deserve to be reelected. No. Can somebody please call Shayla Dixon somewhere? Like, really? As for hearing that Al Sharpton's coming to Baltimore, now listen, I know everyone has their own opinion of that man, but his fame and his status has been built on the suffering of black people. I do not respect this man. I do not consider him as a leader or leader of my community or leader of my people, because honestly, he is just the worst person on the planet, to be honest with you. He exploits and he exploits and he exploits, and he's gotten rich off of it. I don't condone it. So yeah, I wanted everyone to hear the first part. Everything else I said, as far as the whole Al Sharpton and Mayor Rawlings Blake thing, I don't care for them. Like, it is what it is. Like, these are my opinions. These aren't facts. These are my opinions. Well, except for the police report thing, but these are my opinions. This is how I feel. But as far as everything else goes, these are facts. Like, the building that was assaulted, I work in, so I know for a fact that things did not go down the way that they said they was. In fact, the video footage showed that the Orioles fans was actually throwing stuff at that crowd. So it wasn't completely their fault that things got out of hand. In fact, it actually proved their point that the police officers kind of don't do anything when push comes to shove with certain levels of individual. And I wanted to make this perfectly clear. In my opinion, again, this is my opinion. This is not a race thing. This is a social thing. When someone first said that to me, I kind of realized what it meant now. I kind of didn't know what it meant, but I know what it means now. It's a social thing. The police attack and assault the minority of my city, of any city, because they're predominantly in impoverished neighborhoods. Whereas though they kind of don't do this to people who are more privileged. Like, I don't think it's the skin tone that really matters. Don't get me wrong. Pulling people over is pulling people over. They're dicks regardless of whether they do that or not. But from someone that lives in a neighborhood where your door gets kicked in almost every other week, trust me, this is definitely a social thing. They want to exploit and harass and confine the poor to keep them poor. Like, let's face it, if you have a record, it's hard to get a job in this country. So, like, even when it gets down to that, it boils down to a point where they want to keep their numbers up. Go fuck with some poor people. So yeah, this is definitely a social thing. And I think that's it. I'm just gonna leave it at that.